Hey Andromedan Starseeds, welcome to Starseed Energetics. My name is Bora and I'll be reading your September energy. So a really deep message that's coming through for you this month is your perception of time. So right now I see that you are caught in between this third dimensional way of viewing time versus fifth dimensional way of viewing time. Like you're caught right in the middle, because a lot of the times you're experiencing your own sense of time is very high dimensional, like fifth and above. And so you understand that whatever is unfolding in this third dimensional reality, actually time is operating from a purely causal level where you're beyond this time and space. There's an aspect of you that is creating all of this. But on the other hand, you continue to encounter situations where it is enforcing you to adopt a different way of viewing time. So my suggestion to you would be, when you encounter those situations such as deadlines and just the clock and people rushing you to do something, I want you to really reflect on how that feels when somebody is imposing this structural time, and I want you to transmute it with your inner self. And what I see very much highlighted is these dolphins, because it's so rare that why would these two cards come together with these dolphins? So think of how dolphins would perceive time. It just kind of surfs through time. Think of this water, this ocean, as this web of time and space. Think of it as the time-space continuum that is liquefied. They don't get structured by the waves of the water. They kind of just flow through it. And so I want you to, instead of having this very much, you have a very strong dilemma about time where you don't even know how to condition yourself into this structured time, because you don't sense, like if you have clairsentience and you can sense things, you know things, you can't sense into the reality of this structured time. So a lot of these past events have been you not knowing what to do, like holding on to this concept of the past, holding on to this concept of the future, but having a deep inner knowing that nothing is concrete. So you kind of feel like this stretched person that doesn't know what to do. So what you need to do is let it go and have this authenticity when it comes to time perception, temporal perception, to not compromise the way you understand time to be, the time as an intelligent unit of life, the time having its own character, its own personality, its own perception into reality, its own sentience. Speak to it, speak to the intelligent web of time, because time is sentient as well. And try to understand what it's telling you. What is the inner core message that is coming to you from this time? Whatever timeline. So talk to September. Talk to it and say, what do you want me to learn from you? And how would you like me to surf through you? Instead of perceiving it with like 31 days, 4 weeks, I have this and that and this to do. And you just have to also deprogram this idea of being lazy, because when you are really thinking and working with this timelines, it's not being lazy if you are in a state of strategic inaction. Sometimes the most strategic thing to do is to do nothing, is to have this receptive state. have the courage to be lazy and see if laziness is any negative connotations like the society conditions yourself to think. And then project this mindfulness into your situations. And this is a thing that is really important for you this month, is I don't know what's going on in your life, because it's not important to this reading what's happening to your life. But I want you to really, really think about what you're getting accomplished when you're not doing anything. And how people try to structure linear time. And yeah, sure, it works if you break down the different times of the day, the different days of the week, different weeks of the month, and plan things out. Sure, that works. But within that structure, you need to be able to really, really integrate this intelligence of time to have the most fruitful kind of output of this manifestation. The partial co-creator of your life is this intelligence of time. So be careful how you project certain times being spent in doing something or the other. And I think a lot of the challenges for you to overcome this month will be around that. Will be around when you feel like doing something, but you know technically you should be doing something else that is more productive. What I would really recommend for you to do is listen to, Tim Ferriss has a podcast. He's one of my favorite human beings on earth. And in his podcast, he has a snippet from a book called We Learn Nothing from Tim Kreider. He had this special permission of that audiobook to be aired as part of his podcast. So you can actually search this on YouTube, or you can search this on the podcast library on iOS or whatever, Android. So actually I realized that it's called Lazy, a Manifesto. The podcast that you're searching for is Tim Ferriss, Lazy, a Manifesto. If you search that in Google, or if you search that on YouTube, you will get this free snippet of that book. And this chapter of the book, I think it's about 15 minutes, is so important to some of you guys, because Andromedans are so, like scientific. The way they view life is so like it's a higher dimensional rationality, the way they view life. So not like a human rationality, but just a higher dimensional rationality. So I want you to live by this chapter this month. And why is it not that if you just had, imagine infinite amounts of resources and the world doesn't need any saving? I mean, you know how people have savior complexes towards others, like, healers? They just attract situations where they're needed to be healed, but you're actually projecting it onto the world. Like, it's as if you attract all these people who are broken so that you could fix them, but actually you're just creating that situation. Nobody actually needs fixing. Everyone is totally fine. Everyone is just having the time of their lives, living out this third dimensional reality. Everyone has an access to their higher self, unless they're just empty programming. So in reality, nobody needs this immediate fixing. Everything is fine. We're just having fun. And so if you project this kind of like, oh, the world needs to be saved, the earth needs to be healed, that's okay, because yeah, like, we're healing it and the outcome is assured. But the way you project it onto whatever you're experiencing, can you just have this sense of relaxation? Like, there are higher dimensions that are superimposed on top of our own, and there's parallel universes where nothing needs anything fixed, and it's all at the disposal of our timeline jumping. So if you find yourself in a timeline where there's a lot of problems, I want you to just be rest assured that the outcome of a beautiful golden age is already there. So if you could equate this to like these law of attraction teachings or something like that, that tells you You know, if you want this kind of manifestation, just rest assured that it's already been done and just relax. Like, that's the attitude we should have towards life, on your life's mission. And even if your soul's calling is to like save the oceans or ascend humanity to the next level of consciousness, if you have this like weird time projection, like if I don't do it by this and this time, like it's not gonna happen, I really need to hurry up, please just transcend that level of rushing. You don't need to rush through this. Just be brave and understand that being lazy is a birthright. We are allowed to be lazy. And I'm not saying like lazy as in inaction. I'm just saying this like chilling. Look at this Osho card. The card is laziness, but this guy is having the time of his life. Who said that lazy is so terrible? And it's funny because the book that I was recommending, this chapter, I didn't even realize it was called Lazy, a Manifesto, but I only remember the content, and then the title just ends up being this lazy thing, you know? So laziness is actually a luxury. Imagine if you had like billions of dollars and the whole world was like just this golden age, everyone was in their light body, no one has a problem, and we're just living out this heavenly realm. We'd be like lazy. I mean, that's just a low frequency word to describe that state, but just start to adopt that frequency. Like you're allowed to chill. Now, chilling as a result of that, this is so crazy because you're all about restructuring timelines this month, right? And funny thing is, I usually will read from left to right, you know? That's how the spreads work. If I'm reading it from past pockets to present pockets to future pockets, but it just so happened that I started reading from right to left. So it's like really demonstrating your need to just fuck up the whole paradigm of time. And what I'll recommend also is there's a book. Okay, so let me tell you something quickly. Your eye movement has a lot to do with your third dimensional perception or fifth dimensional, like let's say, well, third density that we're moving out of, progressing out of in the physical reality. The way your eyeballs move, it is a literal like physical progression into how you perceive time. So when books are designed so that we read text from left to right, it's always like past to future, past to future. It's instructing this linear timeline. You had no idea, most of you, that that's a subconscious programming to like really read stuff from left to right. So what I believe is that sacred geometry, it forces you to kind of perceive it as a whole, right? So that's why it's so good to look at. But there's a book called Downloads from the Nine. And you're so lucky that I'm saying this if you don't know this book already, because this book is high frequency as F. And this book essentially is a book that you read in a spiral. So this guy, Matthias Fleury's, is like, I freaking love him. So you could get this on your Kindle or you could get this on paperback, but that's what I'm going to recommend for you actually, to get that book. This poetic perspective is becoming accumulated from this. And as a result of all of this, you're going to feel so fulfilled when you deprogram this idea of time. That's what you're focused on. And you're just going to be, look, what you have is totality and the Lovers. And if you know me as a tarot reader, whenever the Lovers comes, I don't read it first and foremost as a external lover, but I always say it comes from an internal state of alignment with your higher selves. Just like this absolute clicking into place of your higher self and you. It's like merging. And then it manifests as some sort of a soulmate or a twin flame or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But look, you have totality and the Lovers. Like, it doesn't get any more synchronous as to describing this level of wholeness you feel from letting go of this time perception that's been programmed into you. And as an Andromedan, you know, you literally exist as such quantum creature in Andromeda, like your higher selves, right? And so one of the toughest things for you to have to go through until this point was this experience of time, like this clock. Like, what is this? Like, what is this time? And what is this looking at previous, past, present, and future? It made no sense to you. So it feels so fulfilling for you to finally take this out of you and know that you're allowed to have this lazy attitude towards everything. So even when, this is almost like the Bhagavad Gita, where they talk about yoga being in inaction. Like, so if you look at the state of inaction and that being merged with a state of action, so whenever you're doing something, you have this background awareness of this chill mindset. So never do anything unless it feels like effortless. And then when you're chilling and when you're being lazy, it's also in a place of a strategicness. You're being productive while you're being lazy because you're in full alignment with the fact that resting and being receptive is a very productive thing. And that leads you to this paradigm of adventures, because this totality will bring about an exploration of a whole different way of living. And so even if you're not doing anything, let's say you're just staying at home doing nothing, it will feel like an adventure to you. And that's going to be the rest of your life. Everything will just be this miraculous adventure with excitement, because you're integrating these different polaric aspects of experiencing and doing and being. Okay, so that was the end of your reading. I hope that it has been helpful. Thank you so much for your presence and love. Please subscribe and like, comment, or whatever. And I love you guys so much. Bye. Have a good month.